forced to go Karen mode on your child's teacher? When did you realize your child's teacher was deliberately destroying their identity? My 7-year-old nonverbal autistic son, Haran, started hitting himself every morning before school, screaming when I said his name. It had taken 4 years of therapy for him to finally recognize and type his name on his communication device. When I checked the device's history, I saw that someone had reprogrammed it. Every instance of Haran had been replaced with Harry. I confronted Mrs. Jackson at pickup and she proudly said, I changed it. Some kids in this class have speech impediments. Haran is too difficult for them to pronounce. Harry is easier. I stood there in shock. She'd erased my son's name without asking or telling me. Change it back, I said. She smiled that kindergarten teacher smile. I've been teaching special needs for 30 years. I know what's best for their integration. This is America. Harry fits better. I knew I couldn't do anything just yet, so I just started paying attention. I saw how Shalley's mom was being told Lily had a great day. Eachin was Ian on the progress board. Mailing's cubby said Mary. Every Asian child had been renamed. The Pakistani boy Muhammad was Mo. The Nigerian girl Adaisy was Ada. But somehow she managed McKensley, Braxton, Lorgven. Those names weren't too difficult for the other kids to pronounce. I called other parents that night. Mrs. Jackson had been doing this for years. She told one Chinese mom that American names would help with future employment. She told a Korean dad his daughter's name was a burden she didn't need. She'd literally crossed out their real names in red pen on worksheets, writing the American names above. One mom said her daughter now refused to answer to her birth name at home. Another said her son had stopped speaking entirely after being punished for not responding to Jason instead of Jia Hao. These were disabled children who took years to learn their names, and she was erasing them. When 8 of us complained together, the principal backed her completely. Mrs. Jackson has 3 decades of experience. She knows what helps these children succeed. The special ed coordinator, who happened to be Mrs. Jackson's brother-in-law, said it wasn't a policy issue. The superintendent suggested we were making a mountain out of a molehill. I requested my son's records and found she'd been documenting his failure to respond to his name as cognitive decline, recommending more restrictive placement. She was literally creating evidence of damage by changing his name, then using his confusion to prove he needed worse services. Haran had taken 3 years to learn his name. 3 years of daily practice, meltdowns, breakthroughs. Now he didn't respond to it at all. The district offered to move him to another class in 18 months when a spot opened. 18 months. Or I could drive 90 minutes each way to another district, or homeschool and lose my job, or pay $60,000 for private special needs school. She was the only special ed teacher for high support autism in the district. Every option destroyed our lives while she kept erasing children. When I threatened to go to the media, the principal pulled out my IEP agreement and showed me the arbitration clause. Any disputes must be handled internally, he said. Going public violates your contract. We'd have to remove Haran from services. The breaking point came at the multicultural festival. Mrs. Jackson stood at the special needs booth, cheerfully introducing Harry to visitors. My son, wearing a name tag I hadn't seen before that said Harry in huge letters, was having a meltdown. She kept saying, Harry needs to calm down, while he hit himself. That's when her mask slipped. A new parent asked about the name tag, noting my son looked Asian. Mrs. Jackson laughed. Oh, his real name is impossible. These parents don't think about their children's futures when they give them these names. We're doing them a favor. The parent looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Jackson continued, I mean, can you imagine trying to get a job with a name no one can pronounce? I've been fixing this problem for 15 years. That's when I decided I was done. I filed a FOIA request for all emails about my son. It took a lot of bureaucratic back and forth, but I got access to all her emails that mentioned my son. That's when I saw it. 3 years of Harry in official communications. But even worse than that, and the reason I did what I did next, was she'd been marking Asian children as language deficient to get extra funding, documenting their failure to integrate when she was the one refusing to integrate them. A few days later, I brought Haran's entire speech therapy team to an emergency IEP meeting. The lead therapist explained that changing his name had destroyed 2 years of progress. She read Mrs. Jackson's own emails aloud. Child does not recognize his own name. Recommend cognitive reassessment. The therapist's voice shook with anger. He doesn't recognize it because you changed it. This is educational neglect. Mrs. Jackson tried to argue that simplified names helped special needs children. The speech therapist cut her off. I'm filing a mandatory reporter complaint for abuse right now, in front of everyone. She pulled out her phone and called CPS from the conference room. The principal went white. The superintendent started stammering about miscommunication. I forwarded everything to the Office of Civil Rights, the ACLU, and the state licensing board before I left the building. They all said the same thing. Investigations take months, sometimes years. Meanwhile, Haran still had to go to her class every morning. Full story on the channel below.